Sorry about that. Welcome back to the Old Fashioned Show. It's Tuesday, which means it is Jason Sukamel Day. Cheers, Norm. I like the shirt, Jason.
I'm looking more and more like Norm every day on where I've gained so much weight in the last like 2 months. I'm just every week it's like, all right, I'm gonna start going back to the gym, and then I'm like, you know what? I just want to be fat. I don't even care anymore, dude. Who am I trying to impress? Right. So I am looking more and more like Norm. Yeah. So
Outside of walking, Jason, that's about all I'm doing. I told myself last year, and I was like, and I kind of like you, I was like, man, I'm just gonna live my life in 2024. I don't give a damn. I'm going to walk as often as possible to keep the cardio going. Outside of that, not that. Jason, there's not a lot recruiting wise going on. We kind of talked about that there, but there is some portal activity that has happened. One of the things I had on Orange Bloods, I think over the weekend, and then I had on last night, is that former Georgia Tech receiver Eric Singleton, he arrived in Austin last night. He's going to be visiting campus today. It's interesting because there was some thought that, the price tag is too high on this guy. Maybe Texas wouldn't be interested. And like a day or two later, he's already set up a visit to Texas. So what's your thoughts on Singleton, kind of as a prospect, the things that you've kind of seen from him? What are you thinking about him?
I haven't sat there and watched it. I didn't watch much Georgia Tech football, and I haven't watched a ton. But he's a productive guy, and I mean, Rivals has him number 2 overall behind.
Mm-hmm.
I think only behind, Micah Hudson, which I think is kind of interesting. Some of these rankings I see, like Jonte Cook's number 8. And listen, I still think Jonte Cook can be a great player for somebody, but Micah Hudson, number 1. Well, he didn't do anything at Texas Tech. I still think he's got a lot of potential. But some of that I think is based off their recruiting reputation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they haven't done anything yet. Jackson Arnold, number 10 in the transfer portal ranking, really. But Eric Singleton's different than that. He's number 2. Well, he's a proven commodity. So, and I like those types of guys, Omar.
Mm-hmm.
I even like this, even if they're from a small school. I like the guys that have been productive. They can come out and play. Last year, 714 yards. I'm sorry, that was 2 years ago. 714 yards, 6 touchdowns. This year, he had 56 catches, 754 yards, 3 touchdowns, 21 carries he had at Georgia Tech this year. So that tells me he's a versatile player, can do a little bit of different things with them. I don't even really know. I was kicking the tires yesterday. Apparently he doesn't say much to anybody. So I don't really know who all's. Well, he dropped like a top 5, I think, right?
I gotta go look.
Yeah, look that up. He dropped a top, or he didn't drop it, but I think he told Hayes Foster or something of a top 5. So, it looks like there are about 5 schools in the running. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have a good idea of where Texas fits in. Like you said, he hasn't even started his visit, probably this morning or later today. So, we'll see. But you know how Texas is when they identify targets in the portal that they want. They're aggressive, and they don't miss on a lot of these portal targets. I mean, there's been a handful of them, but you've seen them bring in a defensive tackle, a punter, a linebacker, boom, boom, boom. They all committed pretty much before they left town. So they've got another defensive tackle coming in tomorrow. So Texas, it's funny. They're taking more of a rifle approach, right? Where they're not bringing in 20 portal guys. They're being very specific with who they bring in. They're not taking a shotgun approach. But they have a pretty high success rate. They know what they're looking for. If they identify a guy, they have a good chance of getting them. So, I think Eric Singleton will. I think Texas has a good shot, but I'm kind of like, I mean, maybe I don't know if you're like me or not, but I still don't know what's going to happen with the other receivers on campus, right? I'm assuming Isaiah Bond's still going to come out, but I don't know. Maybe the ankle injury set him back. Matthew Golden, I don't know what he's going to wind up doing. So maybe, I'm sure Sark and those guys have a better feel on that than you and I do. But Eric Singleton will pick up.
Yeah, his top 5. It's Auburn, Miami, LSU, Texas, and Ole Miss. Not in that particular order. That's just the 5 schools that he's interested in. I think he visited Ole Miss already, if I'm correct.
I think that might be right, because I heard someone talking about like Ole Miss, maybe generating some buzz. Well, if he already visited there, that would make sense. He's from Georgia originally, so I don't, went to Georgia Tech. I don't know if staying in that region would play a part. That might help Ole Miss a little bit, but we'll see. You've got a pretty good source, it seems like, on this. So we'll have to see how the visit goes. Texas will do a good job on this visit. They always do. But I don't think we'll get a lot directly from Eric based on the things I'm hearing. Just he's a pretty quiet dude.
The thing about Eric that kind of fits the mold is, 6 footish. What do I have listed? Like 190 or so?
5'11", 190 is the official listing. Yeah.
And who's fast. Mm-hmm. That if Steve Sarkisian had a type, a dating type, when it comes to receiver, that's his type, right? That is you see that person and you're like, my boy would love her. Like, like you could just see whatever it is, like there's certain things. It seems like if it's a speed guy in the portal, it's like that guy's going to have Steve Sarkisian's attention. And it seems like so far, Jason, that's kind of the bigger name as far as that fits the bill for Sark. It seems like that, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong, but it seems like if Sark can find speed, he is all about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he loves to have at least one of those guys. We'd probably love to have those guys across the board. I mean, most coaches do, but Sark does a better job than most of utilizing that speed. I mean, you go back to, his days at Alabama. I guess, he had Devontae Smith. Was Waddle there when Sark was there? I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, listen, those two guys, Isaiah Bond, even Wingo, Ryan Wingo has verified track times. Silas Bolden is a very fast guy, and it makes sense. It's a good marriage because Sark does a good job of getting those dudes in space. So, Singleton being a speed guy, that's got to be attractive for Texas, obviously, but I would think that's a good selling point for Sark. He can say, hey, go look at my history, what I've done, receivers with a similar profile of you, right? I've got guys getting drafted high in the first round. So come to Texas, we can do that. Probably Isaiah Bond will be a first rounder. If he would have stayed healthy, for sure would have, but he still might be. But look what I've done in Alabama. Look what I've done in Texas with, Xavier Worthy types. And, there's a lot of history there where Sark's been successful. So that'll be a good selling point for Singleton. Yeah, but you're right. It does seem to fit the mold of the kind of receiver that Sark loves to have at least one of, usually one or two.
What do you think, Jason? Because you do obviously a ton of high school recruiting. What do you do with these kids that you recruit out of high school and they're freshmen and they go or they redshirt and then you think, okay, well maybe through attrition now's your time, like Jonte Cook. Everyone thought that okay, it would be Jonte Cook's time in 2024. But Sark was like, no, I need guys with experience, and nobody's got experience. Now, I view it almost like credit, right? It's kind of like, well, when you're young, you try to get credit, and they're like, okay, well, we can't give you credit because you don't have credit. And it's like, yeah, well, the only way for me to get credit is for you to give me credit. And they're like, yeah, but you don't have it. And it's like the only way for them to get experience is for them to have experience. But Sark's like, yeah, but you don't have enough experience. So how do you weigh like the development of these kids versus like, okay, Sark wanting to bring in like proven products?
Well, yesterday, almost last year was a little unique because they only had 3 returning receivers, I think it was.
Yeah.
That's a really low number. So you're going to have to go into the portal. You're going to have to, those guys are going to be experienced probably, but that's true to some point onward, but they didn't have a problem getting Ryan Wingo on the field, even DeAndre Moore, right? You got to be able to earn that trust in Jonte for as good as a player as we think he can be, right? And again, I still think he can be a very good player. Jonte didn't do a good job of earning that trust. There's always a little bit of risk reward there. If you're saying, okay, we're going to put our eggs in these young players who are talented but haven't played yet, well, that's a little bit of risk. But you could have the reward of, hey, these guys are tremendous players. They just haven't had their chance yet. But if you can get a guy like Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden, those are much safer bets and they're proven commodities. So I don't have a problem with Sark, with the way Sark did it. And if you're a good enough young player, you're going to find your way onto the field, but you've got to do it, with your practice habits, with your off-field habits. Obviously, when the ball's thrown to you, got to be productive. Jonte had a couple issues there. So, I'm not poo-pooing on Jonte at all. I like Jonte when I covered him as a recruit. I think he'll do well somewhere. I hope he does. I want to see him be successful, but he didn't do the best job all around, I think, of maximizing his abilities at Texas.
I'll go ahead and get the super chat up and we'll get back to the conversation. Where you been? Kind of creative. Thoughts on Zach Swanson when he said, surprising the staff would be so blunt and say, if you want to stay at Texas, quick football and be a student. What do you think?
I'd be curious to know how close to verbatim that was. He said, hey, this is verbatim, but I think he maybe was a little softer than that. But listen, man, this is a big business. Hey, if you're not producing, you're never going to see the field. They don't want, no coach in America for a championship level program wants players who are, I hate to use the term wasted space, but they're wasting a scholarship really potentially when they could be replaced with a better player. So, you and I've talked about this, I think maybe on the air, I don't even remember, maybe it was off there. Like, I'd be curious to be a fly on the wall, like in those meetings. Like, how do those conversations go? Are they that direct? Like, hey, dude, you suck, man. Get off our team and go be a student. Or do you finesse it a little bit and be like, well, hey, we think you have a chance somewhere else to be really good, but probably just won't be here. So my thoughts when he said it, I was like, wow, I was surprised to hear it from Zach. I'm surprised he said that publicly. 2, I think that's the first time I've ever heard Zach Swanson talk. Like, when he was I think I talked to him like maybe once for like 30 seconds. So I was like, okay, so that's what Zach Swanson sounds like. 3, I wasn't too surprised. Maybe he kind of made it a little more harsh than the actual conversation went, but this is big business, and there are some tough conversations, I'm sure, behind closed doors.
I guess for me, as far as the answer to that question was, they weren't lying to you.
Yeah.
They weren't lying to you. They were being direct by saying, yeah, you're not going to play here. And you know what? You want to hear that. Like, it's funny, Jason. Everyone wants honesty until it's something that you don't want to hear. And then all of a sudden you don't like the honesty. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, don't ask me if this outfit matches unless you really want the answer. Like, don't ask me a question if you don't want the answer. Sark, they sit down with these guys, and to your point, I'm sure he took a little liberties with the conversation, right? But they sit down with these guys and they're honest. And guess what, Zach? He was honest with you, and you were able to go to ASU and be able to play. Like, what? So play
a little, not a ton. He's still not like a dominant starter at ASU.
He's playing more there than he would have played here.
Sure. Yeah.
And at that point, if you were able to go and find a home, so be it.
He went back home. He's from Arizona. Arizona State's like amazing campus, like the most beautiful women you've ever seen in your life running around Arizona State campus. So so Zach, just be happy, dude. It all worked out for you in the long run.
And I'll be honest with you, I honestly forgot who Zach Swanson was and that he existed. I didn't know much. I don't really remember. I honestly don't remember when he came to Texas.
Well, I do, because I covered him as a recruit, but I forgot that he was Arizona State. Arizona State's got like 4 or 5 former Texas players there.
Yeah, they also got the receiver. Was it Troy O'Meary? I think went over there.
I remember Troy's there. Prince Dorba's out there. There's a safety that I'm forgetting his name on. He's out there playing pretty well. So there's 4 or 5 of them out there. So it's kind of a
and of course Brian Carrington, who's the coach out there. Let's get into another thing that was kind of newsy. Sadir Mitchell, Jason. He's a young dude, right? So I understand young people are going to be young people, right? I don't know what to say to it, but it's interesting because we've heard that Sadir hasn't been happy for a long time, right? That's been kind of known behind the scenes. And then I don't understand, like, he's going to go in the portal, and then he gets talked out of going in the portal, and then a couple of days later, he's like, I'm going in the portal. It's funny because I asked Sark, you remember, ironically, I thought it was a throwaway question, ended up being time. Like, I asked Sark about, like, hey, how do you decide who you keep and don't keep? And I'll be honest with you, yesterday I thought some people asked some good questions, and I thought, damn, I think I asked one of the worst questions outside of Terry's a very interesting Terry. I will one day pontificate the way Terry does. I appreciate how much work he puts into his questions, though. What did you think about Sadir finally saying, okay, let me just go ahead and go?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember if it was your question or someone else, but Sark specifically mentioned defensive tackles, so maybe he knew what was coming with Sadir. Well, here's the deal, man. Sadir, as a high school student, committed to Texas, but he still flirted with other schools. He shows up to Texas. He was terribly out of shape, right?
Yeah.
He finally kind of gets himself going a little bit last offseason, but then I didn't ever see it, and maybe you did, but there was talk of him like getting in a fight on the sidelines in one of the games this year.
I've heard, I heard that. I never saw that.
Yeah, if that's true, and then he says he's going to enter the portal, and then he says he's not, and then even in Catch reported when he came out of, he never went in when he decided not to. I remember Catch said, "Hey, his source said he's not in the portal for now," and I had actually checked with a second source. Said, hey, like the word going around the team is that he is still going to be in the portal. Well, 3 days later, he's in the portal. So, maybe it's just the best. I mean, it's not good for Texas because they need defensive tackle help. I mean, they need bodies. I don't know that Sadir Mitchell is going to be a great player for anybody. We'll see. But Texas needs bodies right now, just guys that can kind of fill some gaps there and hopefully turn into something. So it's not a great loss in that regard, but like you said, Sadir, I don't think was ever very happy at Texas. He started to come on a little bit this year. We heard Sark mention him in the season as a guy that, flashed some during their off weeks and things. So, you'd rather have him on the team than not, I guess, if you're Texas. But if he's that unhappy, if he's that disgruntled, maybe it's best that he goes somewhere and finds happiness, and Texas can maybe replace him with someone else in the portal. Like they've already got one defensive tackle committed. They've got another one visiting, I think tomorrow, maybe today or tomorrow. He's at Texas Tech and Florida State. Lee Hunter is his name from Central Florida. So, good luck to Sadir. Nothing against him, but Sadir Mitchell's replaceable.
What does this do for a guy like Justice Terry? I mean, if you're Texas, it seems like, thank God you have him coming in because – I mean, that room is bare as it is. I mean, I don't even know what to think about that. And then there's a question that, I want to ask you as relates to Kenny Baker, but Justice Terry, does that put him on a path to potentially playing like right away? And is he good enough from what you've seen in especially SEC to be able to come in right away?
It gives him an opportunity. He's a bit undersized in terms of a bit. He's in terms of true defensive tackles, interior guys, but he's so talented and this dude's so strong and works so hard that he can make up for that. But yeah, I think it gives him a chance. Even a guy like Myron Charles. I talked to Myron this week. I wrote about him. Actually, I'm going to post my 3-2-1 column after your show. So I'll have an update on Myron there. Myron said to me like, hey, I'm coming in with the mindset of playing early. They've told me there will be a chance to play early. A guy like Alex January could step into a bigger spotlight role next year. But yeah, I think some of those young guys, they're certainly going to have an opportunity, and we'll see. I mean, I think Texas, like I said, they have one defensive tackle from the portal. I think they'll take it. I know they'll take at least one more, maybe two. So that's going to maybe clog things up a little bit. But if those young guys are good enough and talented enough, hey man, they'll move up that ladder pretty quickly and take over one of those top spots. And the guys that they're bringing in this year, kind of like last year, I'm talking the portal guys, they're nice additions, and those guys have played pretty well for Texas, but none of them are like true game changers at the interior defensive line, right? They're, Bill Norton was good. He's a good run stopper. Those guys can be helpful. I think that's what Texas is getting out of the portal this year. But if a guy like Justice Terry, Myron Charles, again, Alex January, young guy on the roster, if those guys can really come in the spring and really make their mark, I mean, I don't see any reason why they couldn't be certainly in the 2 deep and maybe even on top of the depth chart at some point.
Is there, just the last thing on the defensive line room, is there a conversation, Jason, to be had about Kenny Baker at this moment? Is it just victim of circumstance? This is just football in 2024, or Is something bigger here at play because this is year 2. He lost a lot. I mean, he's damn near lost most of all of his room. So there's nobody else that's lost that many bodies from a room perspective. I just want to know: is it too early for that at this moment? Do we need to see it on multiple years?
No, man. I mean, you and I view that differently. I think Kenny Baker needs a pat on the back. I mean, yeah, he's losing a lot of guys, but they're upperclassmen. Those are guys that are seniors aside from Sadir.
Yeah, but Justice Finkley is in the portal. Aaron Bryant is in the portal. I mean, I know what you're saying. Sadir Mitchell's in the portal.
I don't really call those losses. I mean, listen, and we all love Justice Finkley, right? And I hope Justice goes on and kicks ass somewhere. But those dudes weren't. Justice Finkley wasn't going to play in his position. He's got too many good guys in front of him. Aaron Bryant, was an interior guy, but he wasn't really ever materializing. No, I think Kenny Baker. First off, I mean, their defensive line recruiting this past cycle that just signed a couple weeks ago is as good as Texas has done in a long, long time in terms of interior defensive line. How much of that's Kenny Baker, how much of it's NIL, that's a conversation in itself. But my thing with Kenny Baker, he was put in a shitty position by Bo Davis. When Bo Davis fled to LSU, that defensive line room was pretty bare. You're losing obviously the two guys that went into the NFL last year. You were counting on Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton to step up. Well, they did. They played well this year. So I think Kenny Baker deserves some credit for developing those guys. But what Bo Davis did not do well at all, and in fact, he was pretty poor at it. He would take some classes with large numbers of players, but he didn't get those elite players. And he never stockpiled, especially on the interior, he never stockpiled like really high-end talent. So Texas is in a position where when he left, they had to go to the portal. They just had to. This year, they just have to go to the portal. If Kenny Baker can do what he did, in 2026, what he did with this group that just signed, and keep stockpiling these good interior defensive line classes, well, then that kind of negates that problem. You don't have to go to the portal. But Bo Davis left that position pretty thin, not much experienced talent there at the top. So I don't really fault Kenny Baker for the way that things have unfolded. Some of those guys that are leaving, I don't think they're leaving because it's a Kenny Baker issue. I think they're leaving because they know they're not going to get any playing time at Texas. So, I think I don't put that on Kenny Baker at all. In fact, I think Kenny Baker did a really good job in this last recruiting cycle of helping take the first step to shoring up those interior defensive line issues. And again, I mean, let's be honest, NIL played a big part in that. I mean, you don't get Justice Terry or even Myron Charles without attractive NIL opportunities. Josiah Sharma's another one. So, but bottom line is that's Kenny Baker's position. They recruited it really well. And Sark mentioned it yesterday. He said, hey, he felt really happy with the way they recruited defensive line in this last cycle.
So let's talk about some guys that they got coming in. Jason, I don't know if you're going to agree with me. I want to start the conversation with Jack Bomeister. Is that Bomeister? I believe is how I pronounce it correct.
I talked to him this week, but I didn't ask him how to say his name. But I did talk.
That's unfortunate. That could have helped. That's okay. We'll figure it. We got plenty of time to figure out. All right, so Jason, I am under. Just if Sark ever said, I care about what Anwar thinks, which in that world we know it probably does not exist. I would say from this moment forward, never sign a punter out of high school again. Just get him out the transfer portal, find someone who's proven. Let's never do this experiment again. Like, just don't. Because whatever you think you see in high school may not translate for whatever reasons on this level. It's not to throw Michael Kern under the bus. Just didn't play well. He just didn't punt well. He didn't live up to the expectations that I think the staff had for him. And clearly he did it because they went out and got this one. Your thoughts, one, on that thought alone, and then, of course, the acquisition of a Utah punter.
I'm okay if you take a punter out of high school, call it high school, but it better be an Australian guy. Like Jack Bomeister is an Australian guy. I mean, Michael Dixon was a great find for Texas. Go get one of those Aussie punters who are proven. Some of those dudes are like, I say out of high school, but I'm drawing a blank. The kid who came here and then he's now at SMU, averaging like, remember, I can't think, but he came in for one game and he dropped the snap and then he never got a chance to punt again.
Yeah.
He goes to SMU and now he's averaging like 45 yards a punt up at SMU, doing really well. So maybe Texas should have given him another chance. But anyways, that dude was like 25 when he came to Texas. He was working construction and decided to go to one of these Pro Kick Australia or one of these other punt schools over in Australia. So I seriously would be okay if they took a high school punter from Australia, or a 4-year punter from Australia. Michael Kern was a good prospect, but he didn't have a lot of people beating down his door. He committed to Texas very early, and he told me, he said, "Hey, I'm doing it because what better offer am I going to get than Texas?" So it was a little bit
like Michigan or Michigan State or something like that.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Isaac Pearson, thank you. Someone in the chat.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Isaac Pearson's the one who came and he dropped the snap on his first attempt. I don't think he ever got to punt again at Texas. But no, Michael Kern, I'd have to pull it up. But as far as committable offers on where it was Texas and some smaller schools.
I'm gonna pull it up. I felt like he had one other.
Even if he did, I don't think it was like I said, committable offer. I mean, maybe someone threw.
Oh, well, I only see offers from Texas and Army on here.
Okay, well there you go. So it was a little bit of a risk, but I did find it interesting when I talked to Jack Baumeister this week. He said that Texas told him, "Hey, we're looking for a one." He's a graduate transfer. He said they're looking for a 1-and-1 guy, like a guy who can come in and punt for 1 year and help bring Michael Kern along. So they're not giving up on Michael Kern. Maybe they feel like if he's trains with this Jack Baumeister guy, maybe Kern can learn some things or improve. So Texas isn't throwing in the towel on Michael Kern, nor should they. I mean, he's still a freshman, true freshman, but. I just thought that was interesting. They basically said, "Hey, we want you to come in and be our guy, be experienced. We want someone like that, but we also want you to help bring Michael Kern along." So, I think Texas did a great job. Listen, I wrote last week in my column, punter was the number one area. I listed the positions I thought Texas needed to go after in the portal, and punter was number one for me. So they did quick work there. This guy entered the portal on Monday. Texas got right on him. I don't know, maybe there were some conversations even before that with his agent or something, but Texas was the only visit he took. He said academically, being a grad transfer, everything fit. And all the pieces of the puzzle fit perfectly. He loves the Texas scheme that they run on special teams under Jeff Banks. He said is very pro style like. So if he has any hopes of going to the pros, this would prepare him, which I thought that was an interesting comment. I was like, I don't know what a pro style punting game looks like, but I mean, he did say it's a pro style special team. So, but yeah, I think that was a great pickup by Texas and a very necessary pickup by Texas.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you are Jeff Banks, which, we all like Jeff Banks, but Jeff Banks is a former punter. Like if there's one position you got to get right, it's like Steve Sarkisian missing on a quarterback. Like that has to be your wheelhouse. Like you've got to be able to see and identify it. So I can see from a Jeff Banks perspective where he doesn't want to give up on a guy because you basically be saying like, I kind of whiffed on my area of expertise. And who wants to admit that, right? And it's just, it'd be like you hiring someone, for Orange Bloods that, to do recruiting, and that person totally sucked. But like, how do you not know that this guy couldn't be a good recruiting writer, Jason? Like, you've done this for 30 years. So I totally get that portion of it. I still say portal. Yeah. Give me the guy who's a grad. There's punters everywhere. Give me the guy who's a grad transfer who I know can do it, who can check the boxes for 1 year, 2 years. No problems.
Have a guy poach somebody from, Central Florida. Some freshman goes to Central Florida, like, whoa, this kid's badass. Okay, let's bring him to Texas. We can get him for 3 years, So
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It seems like it's a pretty easy stopgap to fill, even if it's just a 1 year deal. And again, I mean, listen, I hope things work out for Michael Kern. But kind of feels like you can either punt or you can't, right? There's only so much you can change in your technique or something, but who knows? Maybe he finds something, tweaks something, and 2 years from now, he's booming the ball 45, 50 yards every time.
I mean, so maybe I just want to look up something real quick. I just so we're clear. Like Bert Auburn is a what? What year is he?
He's a senior, but he's got one more year. He's got a redshirt year, I think, if he wants it.
I'm just gonna tell you, not my thing. Not a huge fan of having 2 punters and 2 kickers on scholarship. 4 scholarship guys for 2 positions. Like I'm just.
It's not like we're not talking receiver or running back where they can be on the field at the same time or tight end, right? I mean, you're not gonna have one of those guys.
And again, like we got Will Stone does kickoffs, Bert Auburn does field goals, and now we're gonna have like Bo Meester, he punts, when you need like 40 or more, and if you need like something less, then you go with Kerr. Like there's just a lot right now. There's a lot of scholarships.
I don't think you're going to see Kern at all. I think it's going to be all Bo Meester. Sark mentioned yesterday, like, hey, not only is a big leg, he's good at kind of placement punts and those types of things. Maybe Michael Kern can be your holder on field goals or something. Give him some kind of role. I don't know. But
regardless of you got my sarcasm, didn't you?
Yeah,
no. Understood the sarcasm.
Well, Jason. There's that, like we've said before, and they've got a deep snapper on scholarship too. Which I don't even have a depth chart. I'm assuming he's their starting deep snapper, the St. Louis kid, Lance St. Louis.
Let me look. I got a depth chart right here. I got from this last game. Let's see.
He better be. If you're bringing a deep snapper, he better be your starter.
St. Louis is the starter. Tate Haver is the backup, by the way. Shout out to Tate Haver, who I didn't know existed. But
does it show you who the holder is on field goals and things?
Let's see. So the punters Kern, kickers are Auburn, kickoff is Will Stone, defensive the steep snappers St. Louis, holders Kern.
Oh, it is Kern. Okay.
So holders Kern with Ratliff as the backup, Golden at kick returners, and Bolden at punt returner.
And listen, that's a small thing, being the holder on field goal. That is an important role, man.
It is important.
Yeah. I mean, we're going back like 40 years ago, dude. I tried that, and it's not easy, man. Like,
yeah.
I actually had pretty good hands. I played receiver when I was young, but I don't know, something about putting that ball down. I couldn't get it right. So coach was like, get the hell out of here. So Michael Kern, good for you, dude. It's a very intricate role. And if you can do it well, then at least he has a role on the team. So.
Jason, Texas also got a commitment from the Arkansas linebacker, Brad Spence. Kind of to your point, right? Brad Spence, Cole Brevard, the Purdue defensive tackle. When they visit campus, usually not long after they visit that these guys commit, especially the grad transfer stuff. Did you ever do anything with Spence coming out of high school? Are you familiar with him at all?
Yeah, very much so. He and I was looking back through my old DMs. I haven't talked to him since he went to Arkansas, but yeah, I covered him he's out of Klein Forest. I covered him at a couple camps and Under Armour camps. Just direct messaging back and forth, sending pictures and videos. So yeah, but Brad didn't seem to acknowledge me because I couldn't get word one out of him when he entered the transfer portal. So Brad's on my shit list. But yeah, I did
cover one of the guys that Jason's like, I love this guy because he returns my phone call.
No, he's not Malik. No, so Brad has been ghosting me, but had to use other sourcing to get information on Brad. But he went to Arkansas and was, pretty productive there. I think Pro Football Focus had him, get this straight, right, as a run defense. He was like top 10 in the SEC in terms of all overall linebackers, in terms of his run defense grade. So, productive player. Is he going to come out and beat out Leon Galafau? I don't know, but I think he'll be in that rotation. Certainly, he'll be a productive player, an experienced player that Texas can count on. So I like that pickup. You're not. Is he going to be an all-conference player for you? Probably not, but I think he can be a guy, I think Catch kind of wrote, he can come in and be your David Benda, and maybe even a little bit better than what David Benda was for you. So I like that pickup of Brad Spence for Texas.
Yeah, but speaking of your boy Malik, I think the last thing I saw something that was he's maybe going to be visiting Kentucky, or I think so, which
I had, didn't he visit Auburn? Honestly, I haven't kept up that much.
Yeah, you haven't. You should reach out to him, man. I'm sure he'd love to He would love to hear
It's
from
been
you.
a couple years at this point on where he's moved on to someone else. So.
Yeah, that's probably true. You're probably old news at this point. And then any real thoughts on the defensive tackle Cole Brevard that Texas is able to bring in? Just looks like a huge, big body and just in an area of need.
Yeah, 6'3", 333, and the guy they've got coming in this weekend is this week rather 6'4", 320. The Lee Hunter out of Central Florida. Brevard. I need to call our Purdue guys because he wasn't ultra productive, but he's a big body. So if he can be a space eater like the Bill Norton and kind of hold up and run support, maybe he's that type of guy for you. Maybe you can occasionally make a play in the backfield, but there just aren't a lot of like true, or not any, I should say, game-changing defensive tackles in the portal. Maybe that changes. We got a little bit of time left, but they're not in there yet. So, I think this guy he's a guy that Cole Brevard can come in and be a rotational player for Texas, but I don't know that he's a guy that you're going to count on to be a high-end starter for you, but he can probably come in and contribute and give you some depth and give you some snaps and be in that rotation.
And did someone ask, Jason, when it be asked, was there any updates on the tight end from Purdue?
Yeah, I don't, I'm in trouble pulling his name out of my head, but he hasn't said anything to anybody. Word kind of behind the scenes is that initially it looked like Texas was in a good spot, and then it was like, okay, maybe not, and now it's like, okay, it looks like maybe Texas, and the kind of scuttlebutt is maybe Oregon's involved there too. So no slam dunk to Texas by any means. I think it was Money B on that question.
Money B asked that question.
Yeah, Money B. No, not a lot of insight. He's been a tough one to get much intel on, but I'm hearing kind of Texas and Oregon, maybe a couple schools to watch.
I think we're really pretty much caught up on that. You said who is the person that you said is coming in to visit from the transfer portal this upcoming weekend, Jason?
I misspoke. It's actually this week. I think he's coming in maybe today or tomorrow. Lee Hunter, he's another defensive tackle out of Central Florida. He visited Texas Tech early this week, maybe I think yesterday, and then Florida State's also involved there. So Texas Tech, Texas, Florida. He's out of Central Florida, obviously a transfer from Central Florida, another interior defensive lineman.
Again, bodies.
Yeah, you throw enough numbers at it, and then hopefully one or two of these guys are like, oh, we found something here. So
yeah. Hey, Jason, a couple more things before I get out of here, right? Mm-hmm. Just your thoughts on this upcoming game. We got to get back in game mode. We got to get back in game week. There's been so much stuff going on. It's like, oh snap, there is a game this upcoming Saturday. I just kind of your thoughts on the Texas Clemson matchup, the Makuba Bowl, the Cade Klubnik versus Quinn Ewers Bowl, the Michael Taft, at least he's on my team Bowl, like all those things.
Are you like me, dude? Maybe it's the off that they had an off week, but I'm like, I really haven't invested a lot. And maybe it's because the portal's so crazy. I haven't mentally switched to game mode yet. In fact, when we are finished up here, I need to post my column, and then I need to start hitting up some Clemson sources so I can kind of start gathering some intel so I can start getting ready to write my matchup. So what I'm saying with that is I haven't really dug into this game yet. I feel like I need to be more excited. It's the freaking college football playoffs, and Texas is hosting a game, right? I will get excited for it, but right now I just haven't processed it yet. But I'd tell you one thing I heard Sark say yesterday. It gives me a little bit of reason for concern for Texas. He was talking about how good Clemson is, on their offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the blueprint that Georgia was able to use, especially on their defensive line. If you can be disruptive against this Texas offensive line, if you can take Texas's running game out of the equation, that's the recipe for beating this Longhorn team. Now, can Clemson do that? I don't know. I haven't dug in that deeply into their roster and their team and the matchups. I plan on doing that today. But when Sark said that, my ears kind of perked up. I'm like, uh-oh, because that sounds a little bit like Georgia. So, we'll see. I did think it was good for Texas that Sark said everybody seems to be healthy. He not so much Isaiah Bond. He said, hey, we'll have to see him later in the week. But, Quinn Ewers, Kelvin Banks all seemed healthy.
Yeah.
What I'd say, if they can get Isaiah Bond back, I just feel like this is a much different offense when he's back on the field operating at close to 100%. He's so explosive, but I don't know if we're ever going to see that version of Isaiah Bond this year, because if his ankle's not healthy and you try to put him back out there, it's probably never going to get fully healthy without several weeks off. So, the fact that Sark's was like, hey, we're going to have to monitor him each day tells me he's not going to be close to 100% by Saturday. But the other injury updates were good news. But yeah, I'm kind of interested to break this game down a little bit now and see. I said last week I'm going to pick Texas to win, and I will. I mean, barring something crazy. But I don't know that I'm going to pick Texas to cover that. I think it's like 11 and a half point spread. I could see it being more like a touchdown type game. But I still like Texas to win the game.
All right, so last thing, Jason. Okay, and just for everybody who's in the chat, by the way, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, but at least like the video at the very least. All right, I'm going to allow Jason a moment to vent. Okay, no. It's going to be a non-sports related conversation.
No, I think I know where you're going with this.
I did not know until literally 2 weeks ago or a week ago that there were animals actually live in people's cars. Didn't really know this to be a thing. And then you mentioned something, and then Travis puts in the chat how there was some squirrels that put a bunch of leaves in his car, which, by the way, I don't know how that's possible.
How long did those, does Travis not drive his car for like a month at a time? Because that was
did you never take it to a car wash? Like, if you took it to a car wash, the underbody would have knocked it off.
For people watching, I mean, the whole front of his car was like a big squirrel nest. Like that can't be built overnight, Travis. But
it was horrible. But nonetheless, you are having an issue with a rodent, and I just want you to take the floor.
Not anymore. Not as of 6:30 this morning. I'm not, but I want to take the floor. So this is so not sports related. But
yes,
2 Sundays ago, I get in my truck to go to HEB, and my engine is barely running. It's like, and there's a message on my dash said reduced power, and so I start Googling it, and it says, yeah, that can be something with your throttle being dirty or whatever. So on Monday, I had to drive it to the dealership thinking, okay, and I have an extended warranty. So I thought, okay, I'll be covered. On where I can't go more than like 25 miles an hour. And I'm driving down a road where it's like 65 miles an hour. So I got my hazards on. If I come downhill, I could get up to like 40 miles an hour. So that was annoying in itself. I get to the dealership. They call me later like, hey, dude, you've got rodent damage on your wiring here. So it's not covered by your warranty. I'm like, great, $1,000. Okay, awesome. Well, I ended up filing an insurance claim, so I had to pay my $500 deductible still. It cost me $500. So I get that fixed. And then my wife this annoys the shit out of me, but she still does it. She leaves her purse in her car overnight. Now her car's in the garage. I'm like, just bring your purse in. That's just not safe. But she comes in Monday. She goes, there's a hole in her purse. And she said, I wonder if, because our daughter had been in there looking for something. She asked our daughter, Quinn, hey, Quinn, did you snag that on something? And Quinn's like, no. And my wife's like, I don't think she'd tell me if she did, blah, blah, blah. Well, then later she finds remnants of paper scraps and plastic all in her car. A freaking mouse was in her car. I've heard of them getting in your engine, up in your engine because they like the heat, and cats will even do that. But this mouse was in her car. She's finding mice turds all throughout her car, in the back seat, on the floorboard, front. So I got some mouse traps, and the little bastard just kept skirting around the traps. I got the glue traps.
Yes.
And he would just take dumps beside them. So I was like, all right, we're getting nasty. So I went and got the regular mice traps, the snap traps.
Yes. Yeah.
He triggered one of them, but there was no mouse to be found. He dragged one of the glue traps around. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's a bigger mouse, even a rat. So I got the big rat traps. He ate the peanut butter off those traps and never triggered the traps. I'm like, you son of a bitch. So
how's that possible?
I don't know, dude. You
did not hook it up right?
No. I hooked them up right. So last night I had 6 traps spread out in my wife's car.
What kind of car? By the way, what kind of car is this?
It's
So
a
we get
Subaru Ascent. It's like a third row. I guess I don't know if it's called an SUV or whatnot. But like
okay. So it's a Subaru SUV.
Yeah, yeah. So this morning, 6:30, I went out there and I got the little sucker. And the trap had hit him on his head, but he was still alive. I kind of felt bad. So I said, okay, I'm just going to put him in a bag and put him in the trash. So I did. And he was still in the trap. So about an hour later, I'm starting to feel guilty. I'm like, I don't want that little dude just sitting there and like suffering for a day before he dies, right? So I go out there and I poke at the bag and he's still kicking around. So I literally, Anwar, took the bag out of the trash, drove down to the park near our house, and opened the trap and let him go. I don't think he's going to make it though, because he just kind of stumbled around and rolled around. Like, you know what? I'm giving him a chance, right? I'm giving him a chance.
Poor Ratatouille.
Yeah, seriously, he was looking up at me. I was like, "Oh, you're actually kind of cute," but I'm like, "Sorry, dude." But yeah, so the rat or the mouse, whatever the hell it is gone. And here's the funniest part of this, Omar. I took my wife's car to CarMax on Saturday. This is before we didn't find out this mouse was in there till Sunday, but I think he's been in there for like a week or so, because my wife's like, you know, now that I see this, I've been seeing these paper scraps like all throughout my car for like a week and a half. We've been thinking about trading my wife's car in. I took it to CarMax and got it appraised with his mouse. I've been like talking to these dealerships about trading her car in, and my wife's like, you can't trade the car in until we get the mouse. I go, bullshit. Once I sign that paperwork, that's their car. That's their mouse. So,
no refunds, baby.
Exactly. But I did get the mouse, so the dealership doesn't have anything to worry about. But I was damn right I was going to trade that thing in with a mouse on the dashboard if I had to. So
that's crazy. So here's the question. I mean, does Ratatouille, you know, have any brothers or sisters that are still around?
Well, that's what we're worried about. Or what if it was a female that had babies? My daughter's like, could we have babies? Now the babies are going to die. I was like, okay, enough. Like, you make me feel bad as I feel bad enough as it is. Because it had to have been behind the dashboard, like some kind of nest, he or she, whatever. So hopefully it's just the one. You know what? Hopefully there's no babies. I don't know. Hopefully he made it down there at the park and just out there running around living his best life. I don't know.
He got snatched up by a snake like 2 minutes later.
Probably, or a dog or something. But yeah. But bottom line is, I caught one mouse. I'm hoping that's the only mouse.
Okay, so I got this thing. This is for the audience here. I know we're far off topic, right? So Travis Gailey works at Orange Bloods, and when Jason put in our team's chat about like his mouse problem a couple of weeks ago, he goes, "Oh yeah, I had the same thing with squirrels," and he sends us this picture.
How does that happen?
And he had damage. I forget how much he said the squirrel damage was, but this is what the squirrels apparently did to his car, and that's why we're like, how the hell is this even possible, Jason?
Was his car sitting there like in the driveway for like a month without ever moving, or what?
Jason, you know how many leaves? How did you not even notice?
Look at that. You can see like in the bottom right of that corner, you see where they pulled the bumper. You can see the edge of it. Look what's behind it. It's insane, man.
I don't even know how his car was. How did his car not even catch on fire?
I don't know.
With all this stuff that was in there.
Yeah, man, I tell you, the first thing I'm going to do now that I've got rid of this damn mouse, actually Alex Dunlap recommended, and I saw you can buy it at Home Depot. It's like peppermint spray. I'm going to spray around my garage, and you can spray like your engine block and everything. It won't harm it, and it deters rodents. So I'll be getting some of that stuff today and spraying around my garage and the engines of all my vehicles.
I'll let you go on this. Did not know people had these kind of things in their cars. I've learned more about rodents in cars and squirrels in cars, and I turned my garage into like a man cave. And I started parking my car outside, and now you guys are freaking me out. You better
get some of that spray from Home Depot. Get some of that spray and spray your engine. I'm not joking.
My squirrels, these squirrels they're suburban squirrels. They're so spoiled. Like these squirrels are fat. They just look at you and say hello in the morning.
I assumed because we have a ton of like 2 oak trees in our front yard, and every day there's like 3 or 4 squirrels running around like crazy. in my backyard too. I assumed it was a squirrel that did the damage on my truck. Now I'm not so convinced it wasn't that same mouse maybe that got up in my engine and then got in my wife's. But
all right, Jason, get out of here.
all right, Omar, we'll see you.
See you, Jason Sucamel, orangebloods.com. I could have let him go without a little squirrel talk because this has been going on our little Teams channel, and I've just been fascinated by this because I know about rats in houses and in apartments and all that. Like, I get that portion of it. I get rats, I get mice, like roaches, like that part I get. Didn't know these dudes was actually in cars. Now, I've heard of roaches in cars now, but that's just because people kind of be nasty sometimes. This was a whole just new different thing, and I had to explain this to you guys. So I guess be on the lookout. I don't know. if you live in the area of the DFW that got squirrels taking over your house and mice taking over your cars and all that kind of stuff, Eric sells homes DFW. It's the best segue I could come up with. Some people got issues, boy. Looking to buy a home, looking to sell a home, whatever it is. I know at the end of the year is here. Hit up Eric Torres. Let him know that your favorite Unk has sent you. By the way, good to see Marcus in the chat as well. That's my dude right there, Marcus Myers, former UT guy as well. Buddy B, it's like your coworkers are filthy. Hey, listen. I ain't saying. But if you down with me, you know what I'm thinking. But you know what I can't say. But you know what I'm thinking. You know what I'm thinking. All right, hold on. One more thing before we get out of here. You know what I'm thinking, but you know what I can't say. I say it in private. Go to Specs. Go to Specs.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs.
Cheers to you as well. All right, that's it. We done. The people got some issues, boy. People got some issues. All right. Go out today. Enjoy yourself. Do something nice for yourself. Do something special for yourself. Take yourself out to lunch. Do something nice. You deserve it. Put a smile on your face. Don't wait for somebody else to give you happiness. Remember, I always say, live each day like it's your last, because one day it will be. Go out. Do something special. It's the intro from the outro. Y'all take care. Be here tomorrow. You know.